welcome back to VGMporium, and if this is your first time in, I don't really know what to say, except thank you for checking it out. You know, just go ahead and take your time and browse around and, you know, not against window shopping. It's always good. My name's Rage Cage, and I am the proprietor of this establishment. And we have a pretty cool feature going on in the shop today, and that is modern video game chiptune arrangements and covers. And to start off, this idea was brought to me by Martyrus, a host of VGM podcast, where he focuses on remixes and rearrangements, but putting a cool little twist onto it because I'm taking a suggestion from fellow chiptunist Haberchuck, where I do a focus on musicians from SoundCloud, primarily of the chiptune and possibly even the digital fusion variety. So I decided to mash these two together and focus on modern VGM chiptune arrangements done by musicians that I've listened to on SoundCloud. Now, what is the definition of modern games? Well, for me personally, that's pretty much most anything that came out on the consoles after, like, you know, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, because I kind of dropped off after, like, you know, those systems were done. I did kind of move over to PC gaming a little bit with it. Again, I got a laptop that was powerful enough to run these things, so got, like, you know, Half-Life 2, you know, 2010s, got Skyrim, Batman Arkham City. Like, the latest, most modern game I probably got was Killer is Dead by Suda51, because I just can't resist a game made by the man. The latest games I bought actually have been Sonic Mania, Saga Frontier Remaster, and Pedal Crash, which is a Game Boy Advance style tile puzzler. So yeah, that kind of tells you where I'm at right now. But just because I kind of dropped off playing a lot of games, that doesn't mean I haven't kept up with games, you know, because I'm still interested in them. I just like to kind of follow them and find out what's going on. Maybe read about their story, you know, see how cool it is and all this stuff, you know. So I'm still very much interested. I'm just not really playing much. But now back to the matter at hand, and that is modern VGM chiptune arrangements. And what brought us in was Network Terminal, Interior, YM2612 plus SN76489 arrangement from Sonic Forces, arranged by John Tay, and originally composed by Tomoyo Otani, Naofumi Hatea, Kenichi Tokoi, and Takahito Eguchi. And this was released in 2017. And this arrangement was not only done by somebody who's been doing this for a couple years now, they're still in their teens. So yes, John Tay, he is an arranger extraordinaire, and is, I believe, starting to kind of get into his own original compositions. Like, you know, he's starting to get to that confidence level, but damn, like, you know, I started kind of going on Twitter around the time the pandemic, or at least like the shutdowns started happening here in the US, so that's like, you know, 2020. And one of the things I saw pop up was this guy, and he was starting to kind of do arrangements, a lot of Sonic stuff. He was, you know, kind of taking it easy, and then just over the last couple of years, he's just insanely improved. It's crazy, and just the sounds and styles that he's able to adapt to, and just like, it's craziness. And he's not the only one, though. There's like just this huge wave of those that are not even in their 20s yet, that are just creating like awesome stuff. And it's mostly because of the pandemic, being forced to stay at home during those early year of like 2020, and gaining access to Deflamask multi-chip tracker. But then again, I didn't really join Twitter until about 2020, but that was because of the 21 days of VGM. So this could have been going on before, you know, I kind of started seeing it. Cool little thing I'd like to point out is that he's using a few samples from Ground Seed, more in particular the snap, the laser shot sound, and that right there. And I'll say it, his patchwork is really good. I know, like, he got started just doing like ripping patches from games, but then kind of started modifying them, and then I think eventually just started getting to making his own. But, you know, I gotta go back and listen to his stuff again just to hear that evolution. But anyway, John Tay, I'm gonna be linking his SoundCloud, and if you can find him on Twitter, go do it, because it's just like I said, the arrangements he's doing are just phenomenal. But what isn't quite as phenomenal, as far as I hear, is this game, Sonic Forces. You know, I think a lot of fans were looking at it like, oh cool, this is another game that's might possibly get like the 3D Sonic right again. And from what I understand, it kind of just fell short. And but hey, cool thing, you get to kind of create your own custom character, quote unquote, who has a grappling hook. And hey, look at that, you got classic Sonic in there. Oh, little old baby Sonic, as my nephew Ethan calls him. Now, as for the original composers, they've all been like longtime Sega composers, one of them even going back to 1987. except for one, Takehito Iguchi, who started at Square Enix, and his biggest contribution was like Final Fantasy X2, and then he went to Sega in 2003. And they have all separately at points had their hands in making Sonic music. Suffice to say, between all four of them, they've done a lot, and I'm feeling just a little lazy, so I don't want to go over it today. If there was only one of these guys, I'd probably do it, but four of them in a row? Not today, buddy. So moving on to our next chiptune arrangement. I believe Professor Tom of Shujin VGM Academy is going to like this one. This is Heartbeat, Heartbreak, FamiTracker arrangement, using 4 of the Famicom expansion chips. From Persona 4, arranged by Plus Tech, and originally composed by Shoji Meguro. That was Heartbeat, Heartbreak, FamiTracker arrange. From Persona 4, arranged by Plus Tech, originally composed by Shoji Meguro. And the 4 expansion chips being used in addition of the 2A03 are the Konami's VRC6 and VRC7, Namco's N163, and the FDS. And how was it possible that he was able to get all 4 of these going together? Well, I had presented a track before that had multiple, sound chip or expansion chips going at once, and I said it was because of multiple instances. But I forgot about OCC FamiTracker, which is a branch of FamiTracker that adds the function of being able to have all multiple expansion chips in the same instance of the program. And it is kind of maddening to think of just all that going on at once, but hey, Plus Tech is mad enough to do it. So Plus Tech, I don't know if to call them digital fusion, maybe more chip fusion. They do some purely chiptune stuff, but majority of what they do is kind of this fusion of chip sounds with modern sounds. And one of their biggest signature sounds is this really nice bouncy heavy FM bass. And yeah, just all of their stuff is just really good. And like I said, a lot of arrangements. Recently been sharing a lot of original music they've been doing for game soundtracks, and they have been prolific in these last 10 years. Just just the amount of music they've made is crazy. And I've been following them for a while now, probably maybe 7 of those 10 years, maybe. But yeah, no, I just enjoy every single thing they've made. And now here's a funny thing. This is my introduction to Persona music, though at the time I was listening to it, I didn't know it was from Persona, because I wasn't even aware of those games. Strange enough. But yeah, all I knew was it was a really cool arrangement. And the picture that he used was of the character I now know is Chase Tanaka. And she's just like sitting there with like sunglasses kind of pulled down, making a funny face at you. So yeah, there's a funny little thing. Now, I probably shouldn't really need to explain what Persona 4 is. I'd imagine most know what it is, but you know, here it is. It is a JRPG by Atlus. It is part of a spin-off series of the Shin Megami series, or Shin Megami Tensei. And in it, you play as a group of high school kids that are trying to solve murders, that jump into the TV world and fight shadow monster things. And yeah, it's a fun times, I guess. I never played it. Haven't played any of the Persona games, so I wouldn't know. But what I do know is that the music was originally composed by Shoji Meguro. And, you know, I've talked about him a couple times on the Special Order episodes because Professor Tom, again, Special Order tracks from Persona games. And as we learned, Shoji Meguro, he's the Persona guy. Did a few things for, like, the earlier Shin Megami spin-off games and all, but yeah, primarily he's the Persona composer. Enough said. Moving on. This is Mirror Magic from Celeste, and this is the SNES arrange by Maxodex of the remix from Chapter 5's B-side by 2 Mellow, originally composed by Lena Raine. So that was Mirror Magic from Celeste. SNES arranged by Maxodex, based off the remix by 2Mello of the original composition by Lena Raine. And how do you like that? A cover of a remix. Definitely not the first time, but it's cool when it does happen. So now, let me tell you a bit about Maxodex. They do music primarily with the Super Mario World hacking community. So he's using like all the programs and stuff that do that, and I just kind of actually looked into it, and it's a combination of like a text editor, this program called Add Music, and using a MIDI like editor, so like, you know, FL Studio or something like that with a piano roll. And then you just like, you know, insert all your MIDI notes, kind of make, then like I do something where it makes sure it matches up with like the text file, and then feed it through this Add Music, and then depending whether you go through unsampled, which is just using the, you know, the set instruments, sampled instruments of Super Mario World, or sampled, where you actually add in your own external samples, this track being an example of sampled, that you get it out there, and then like, you know, if you output it correctly, it'll play the SPC or the .SPC, and you got yourself a SNES track. But then again, I'm probably explaining it very horribly and getting a few people upset. I apologize. I just now like really decided to look into it and kind of still wrapping my brain around it. But you can tell by this track that this was made by somebody who really, really understands this method of creating SNES music. You know, seeing as this has come up a few times, let me just list off the 3 major ways I know how to make SNES music now. There's this way, using the Super Mario World hack method, using the C700 VST in most DAWs, composing the music in Open Mod Plug Tracker, then exporting it to like a .it or .xm file, and then using a converter program, so like IT to SPC or what have you, and exporting it that way. None of which I have actually tried myself. I've only read about them, so there's definitely a lot more nuances than what I just explained there. Now let me tell you a little bit about 2Mello, whose remix this arrangement is based off of. His music is very heavily inspired by the sounds of Jet Set Radio, you know, Hideki Nakanuma, and he's, you know, gone so far as to actually do 2 tracks or soundtracks called Memories of Tokyo-to and Sounds of Tokyo-to Future, which are all music that have been inspired by the sounds of Jet Set Radio. But I most primarily know him through the soundtrack for the game Read Only Memories. Like, and I've only listened to the soundtrack. I've been thinking about getting the game for so long, like initially when it came out and everything, because I was kind of playing a lot of old adventure games around the time. And yeah, you know, just the soundtrack for that game is really good, and I would suggest you go check it out. I'm gonna link the boy. So now let me tell you about Lena Raine, whose original composition 2Mello's remix was based off of. She has been actively making video game music since 2013, starting with Music Madness, doing music for Dead State, Guild Wars 2, Heart of Thorns, Panic at Multiverse High, Upshift, Hack Mud, and then of course Celeste, which is the big one that, like, you know, got her name really out there. And then, you know, would go on to do music for Sackboy, A Big Adventure, Minecraft, Another Update, Chicory, A Colorful Tale, Deltarune, or she contributed music to Deltarune Chapter 2. And then she has an upcoming project called Earthblade. You know, I've been hearing her name pop up a lot in other VGM podcasts, so it's about time that she showed up on mine, though kind of like in an indirect way. So now we're coming up to the only game that I've actually played that of all the tracks I'm featuring today. And this is Studiopolis Zone Act 1 from Sonic Mania. This is the Sega Master System cover by Hazel, it's a lot of H's, with the original composition by T. Lopes. out with Studiopolis Zone Act 1 from Sonic Mania. This is the Sega Master System cover by Hazel. Original composition by T. Lopish. This is a really good example of the SN76489 being used really well because, you know, unlike the NES's sound chip, the 2A03 APU, you know, it's not as expressive, whereas the NES can, like, you know, has, like, all those different, like, duty cycles of the square wave. So, like, you know, you can go up to 3 different percents. You have the triangle channel for really deep bass and everything. The Sega Master System sound chip doesn't really have that much going for it because it's just 3 set square channels. It can't really go that low with the bass tones, like, you know, the lowest. Yeah, it doesn't really do that well, and it's just really kind of hard to do. So you got to get really creative and like getting it really as expressive as this. So a lot of nice little harps, kind of like doing like some nice like volume slide, like pitch volume slides with like the instruments. Like, so can you hear? They like that. Yeah, a lot of that going on, and of course the percussion, you know, mostly being the noise. And then, but there's also a little bit of a kick tone in there too with the bass, or what is of the bass there. So yeah, just kind of all over the place. So you gotta, like I said, you gotta be really creative with those 4 channels. I had to know because I did OST for a game that's still in progress of being made using the sound chip, and yeah, it was pretty fun figuring out how to get the most out of that. So now back to Hazel with 6 H's. He primarily does like chiptune arrangements of other video game music. Like, you know, using the VRC6, SNES, like the other NES expansion chips, a lot of Sega Master System. With this track, his description of it, he just says, learning how to use Deflamask. That was only 4 years ago. Pretty crazy good there. And yeah, just a lot. Latest thing he's done is a FamiTracker multi-chip arrangement of BB's theme from Death Stranding, and that was a year ago. And so now T. Lopish, or Lopez if you prefer. You know, I talked about him before on the Sonic Hedgehog Zone Act 1. Of course, when I played Studiopolis Zone Act 2, you know, I just can't get enough of that Studiopolis. And yeah, you know, he did all the music for that game and all the arrangements of the original music that was featured in there as well. You know, he got to start doing music for like a lot of the Sega fan games or Sonic fan games and all. And latest thing he's done is, you know, TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, which is some damn good music and a really damn fun game. I actually got to play about like maybe 5 stages with my brother-in-law as Splinter. So yeah, can't wait to get back to that when I get the chance. So now I got one last track for you, and this is Friday Night from Yakuza 0, and this is the Yuzo Koshiro Misty Blue arrange by Iatemu, originally composed by Kensuke Inage. was Friday Night from Yakuza 0. Yuzo Koshiro Misty Blue, PC-88 arranged by Iatemu. Originally composed by Kensuke Inage. And as the name would suggest, this was done in the style of Misty Blue, which Yuzo Koshiro did the music for on the PC, or the NEC PC series of personal computers in Japan. And they have noted on SoundCloud that they actually recorded this from hardware using MSX VGM Play. So what I can imagine is that they used the VGM Play to feed the data registers into a actual YM2608 OPNA sound chip to then output what we're hearing right now. And I actually wanted to find out what they used to actually compose this, so I found their Twitter and actually looked back as far as to when they posted this back in 2019, and it looked like they made it in Bamboo Tracker, and this is an instance of where they kept hearing this song, Friday Night, in this style, just in their head, and so they finally did it, which I've had a similar experience with, what was it, Wily Tower 4 from Mega Man The Wily Wars, and like hearing that song in the style of Brigantine, which is another NEC PC game. But back to Iatemu. They do mostly chiptune arrangements of other video game music using kind of like, interesting sound chips. So like the YM2608, using the VRC7, some OPL stuff, as well as using LSDJ, some AY chip stuff, and the various Famicom expansion chips. But one of the coolest things about their music is that majority of it is actually recorded from actual hardware. So a lot of them you'll hear kind of like an audible click, or even like some of like the startup sounds and stuff before the actual music starts. So that's really cool. So now, whereas the majority of Yakuza 0's soundtrack is composed by Hidenori Shoji, there are some guest composers for some of the karaoke songs and the disco songs, Friday Night being one of the disco songs, and it was composed by Kensuke Inage. And he has been largely a Koei composer and arranger, and largely working on the Muso games, so like Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. But one of the cool things I learned about him just now is that he actually learned underneath Isao Tomita while he was at university, for music. And Isao Tomita, if you haven't heard of him or don't know, he is like one of the pioneers for synthesizer music, kind of getting it like popularized. And I know about this guy mostly because he was one of my mom's favorite musicians alongside Vangelis and Andreas Voldenwater. And he's most well known for his album Snowflakes Are Dancing, which is an entire synthesizer arrangement of a lot of Claude Debussy's works. So a little sneak peek as to what I was listening to as a young childhoon and kind of influencing my musical tastes. And there you have it, folks. Modern VGM, arranged as actual chiptunes that you can export and play on real hardware. Excepting the Heartbeat Heartbreak arrangement, unless you had some kind of Frankenstein board that had all of the expansion chips on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's working on something like that. And not one sign of a MIDI rip. No siree bop. That's just no fun. So I want to thank Martyrs for giving me the idea of playing modern VGM chiptune arrangements, and Haberchuck for featuring more musicians from SoundCloud. And I just took those and mashed them together. Maybe someday I'll just do like individual focuses on them, but hey, thought this would be a fun idea. As a little side note, I'd maybe like to ask you to forgive me for if I pronounce some things funky or if I'm just kind of talking strange. For some reason, I'm just like dealing with some really weird dry mouth right now, so yeah. Blah. Yeah, I'd like to thank you all for coming into VGMporium and, taking the time to just listen to me blather on. You can find VGMporium on all your social medias like Twitter and Instagram. You can find it all on YouTube, and it's going to be regularly updated. I guarantee you that. So if that's like, the way you like to listen to your podcasts, just have it on YouTube in the background. That's how you do. And then you can also find it on all your favorite podcatchers like Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Audible through Amazon. And I've been your host, Rage Cage, where you can find me on all those same social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you can even find me on SoundCloud, where I host a lot of my original chiptunes and arrangements done with chiptune. And SoundCloud is where you can also find a lot of these arrangers as well. I'm going to be, putting all their SoundCloud links in the show notes so you can go and enjoy the rest of their music, both covers and originals. And with that, I wish you all a good day.